The scream ripped across the Wyoming plains, so sharp and desperate that Jack Mercer felt it in his bones before he understood what it was. It was not the cry of an animal. It was not the wind. It was human, and it was full of terror. Jack pulled his horse to a hard stop on the ridge. The August sun burned over the open land, turning the grass gold and the air heavy. Heat waves shimmered across the distance, but he knew what he had heard. Someone was in trouble. For 8 years, Jack Mercer had lived alone on his ranch west of Bitter Creek. 8 years since fever had taken his wife Ann and their little girl Lily within the same cruel week. 8 years of quiet meals, quiet nights, and quiet grief. He had told himself that was enough, that silence was safer than love. But that scream would not let him ride away. Yet he pressed his heels into his horse and moved toward the sound. As he crested the next rise, his heart stopped. A broken wagon lay tipped in a shallow ravine. One wheel was shattered. Supplies were scattered across the dirt like someone had ripped through them in a rage. A water barrel lay on its side. Dry, clothes were trampled into the dust, and in the middle of it all stood a little girl. She could not have been more than 5 years old. Her blonde hair hung in dirty knots around her face. Her dress was stiff with dried blood and dirt. In her shaking hands, she held a broken branch over the body of a woman lying motionless in the sun. The girl was trying to shade her. Jack slid from his saddle before the horse fully stopped. The girl turned toward him, and her blue eyes burned with fear. Yet she widened her stance and lifted the branch like a weapon. "Stay back!" she said. Her voice was hoarse and cracked. "Do not touch her!" Jack raised both hands slowly. He kept his voice calm. "I am not here to hurt you." "That is what they said," the child whispered. "The men who came, they said they only wanted water." The words hit Jack like a punch. He had seen that kind of damage before. Men who asked for help and left death behind. "How long have you been here?" he asked gently. "I do not know," she said. "It is hot." Her lips were split from thirst. Her small body swayed as if she might fall. "What is your name?" "Emma. Emma Wright. That is my mama." She swallowed hard. "Her name is Sarah." Jack stepped closer when she did not raise the branch higher. He knelt beside the woman. Her skin burned under his hand, and her breathing was shallow. A deep wound cut across her shoulder, wrapped in bloody cloth already soaked through. "How long since she woke up?" he asked. "Yesterday morning." Emma's voice trembled now. "She told me not to leave her. I did not leave." "You did right," Jack said. "You kept her shaded. That helped." He moved quickly. He brought water from his canteen and touched it to Sarah's lips. Most of it spilled down her chin, but some went in. No response. "We need to move her," Jack said. "My ranch is close. There is shade and a well." Emma stared at him. She studied his face as if she were searching for lies. After a long moment, she nodded once. Jack lifted Sarah carefully onto his saddle. She was light but heavy with unconscious weight. He secured her with rope and turned to Emma. Can you ride?" "My papa was teaching me," she said. "That will do." He lifted her onto the horse behind the saddle. She clutched his belt with small, trembling hands. The ride back to the ranch felt longer than 5 miles. The sun pressed down like a hammer. Sarah's breathing grew rougher. Emma held on without a word. Jack had not carried anyone behind him since Lily. The memory hit him without warning. A small body laughing. A warm hug around his waist. He pushed the memory down and rode harder. When the ranch house came into view, relief hit him hard enough to make his knees weak. He carried Sarah inside and laid her on his own bed. Emma followed so close she nearly stepped on his boots. Jack worked fast. He cleaned the wound with whiskey. The smell of infection filled the small room, and he packed it with dried herbs he kept for injuries. He sent Emma to the well for water, and she ran without complaint. They worked together through the afternoon. Jack cooled Sarah's burning skin and changed bandages. Emma carried bucket after bucket, her small arms shaking, but refusing to stop. By sunset, Sarah's fever broke. Her skin cooled under his hand. "She is fighting," Jack said softly. Emma slumped against the wall, too tired to stand. Jack realized she had not eaten. He brought her cornbread and dried meat. She stared at it, before finally taking a bite. "Is Mama going to die?" she asked. "I do not know," Jack answered honestly, "but she is stronger now than she was this morning." Emma nodded and kept chewing. That night, the house felt different. For years it had been empty except for him. Now 2 strangers slept under his roof. The silence was not hollow anymore. It was full. Near midnight, Sarah woke. Her eyes were wild at first, searching the unfamiliar ceiling. Then she saw Jack. "Emma," she whispered in panic. "She is here," Jack said quickly. "Safe." Sarah tried to sit up. Pain crossed her face. He helped her gently. "The men," she said. "They shot my husband." Jack nodded. He had guessed as much. "They wanted money," she continued. "When they did not find it, they hurt me." Cold anger settled in Jack's chest, the kind that did not burn, the kind that froze. "You are safe here," he said. She studied him carefully. "Why did you help us?" she asked. He thought about it, about the scream, about the child standing alone in the sun. "Because I could," he said. Sarah's eyes softened just a little. The next days passed slowly. Sarah's strength returned little by little. Emma stayed quiet. She barely spoke, and when she did, it was only a word or two. At night, she screamed in her sleep. Jack would stand at the bottom of the loft ladder, listening to the nightmares tear through the darkness. Sarah would hold her until she calmed. On the 4th day, something changed. Emma followed Jack into the barn. She watched the barn cats playing in the hay. One tiny gray and white kitten stumbled toward her and climbed into her lap. Emma looked up at Jack. "Kitty," she said. It was the first word she had spoken in days. Jack felt something crack inside his chest, something that had been locked tight for 8 years. "That is right," he said quietly. "That is a kitty." That night, after Emma slept, Sarah sat across from him at the table. "You live alone," she said. "Yes." "Why?" "Because I lost my family," he answered, "and I did not know how to live around people after that." She did not press him. She only nodded. "I lost mine too," she said. They sat in silence, but it was not heavy. It felt like understanding. 3 weeks passed. Emma began to talk again. She learned her letters from an old reader book Jack found in a trunk. She asked questions about everything. The house filled with the smell of bread and the sound of small laughter. Curtains appeared in the windows. Herbs hung by the door. The ranch did not feel like a grave anymore. One afternoon, Jack rode into town for supplies. When he returned, something was wrong. 3 horses stood outside his house. A man held Emma by the arm. Another had Sarah by the hair with a knife at her throat. Jack did not think. He acted. The first man fell before he understood what happened. The second died running from the door. The third pressed the blade harder against Sarah's skin. "Stop!" he shouted. Jack's rifle did not shake. "Let them go!" The man laughed. Sarah's voice cut through the moment. "You work for my mother," she said. The man's eyes flickered. Jack fired. The body hit the dirt. Silence followed. Emma sobbed. Sarah clung to him. Jack held them both as the dust settled around 3 dead men. Something dark stirred in him, something he had buried years ago, and it scared him. That night, after the bodies were buried, Sarah found him sitting alone on the porch. "You scared yourself today," she said. "Yes," he answered, "but you saved us." He looked at her, at the woman who had survived so much, at the child sleeping inside. "I do not know what kind of man I am," he said. "You are the kind who protects," she replied. He did not know if that was true. But inside the house, Emma slept peacefully for the first time since he had found her. And for the first time in 8 years, Jack Mercer did not feel alone. The morning after the shooting, the ranch felt different. Not quieter, not louder, just changed. 3 fresh graves stood beyond the barn, marked with rough wooden crosses. Jack had buried the men before sunrise. He did not pray over them, but he did not curse them either. He simply covered them with dirt and walked away. Inside the house, Emma refused to let go of Sarah's hand. Sarah moved carefully, her shoulder still healing, but her eyes were sharp now. Fear had not left her. It had turned into something else. Resolve. Jack cleaned his rifle at the table. The metal shone in the early light. "Those men," Sarah said finally. "One of them was named Brennan." Jack looked up. "You know him?" "I did not know him, but I knew the name." Her voice was steady, but tight. "My mother employs men like that." The words settled heavy between them. "Your mother," Jack repeated. "Victoria Caldwell. Boston." Sarah stared at the window as if she could see across the country. "She does not forgive. She does not forget." "And she sent men to kill your husband?" Sarah nodded once. "Why, they were meant to scare us. Thomas fought back. They shot him. After that, things went too far." Jack felt the cold anger return. Not wild, not blind, just clear. "Why would she care what you do out here?" he asked. Sarah hesitated. "There is something I did not tell you." Jack set the rifle down slowly. "My father died 3 months ago," she said. "In his will, he left a trust for Emma. $200,000. Jack stared at her. "And your mother controls it?" "No, the guardian does. Whoever has legal custody of Emma has control over that money until she turns 21. The room went still. "So this is about money," Jack said. "Yes. And you did not tell me." "I was ashamed." Sarah's voice broke. "Thomas did not even know about it. I did not want that money. I wanted freedom from that house." "From her." Jack stood and walked to the door. He stepped outside and stared across the land. He had killed for them, risked everything, and there had been this secret sitting between them. Sarah followed him out. "I was afraid," she said quietly. "Afraid that if you knew, you would think I only stayed here because of the ranch, because of protection." Jack turned to face her. "Is that what you think of me?" "No," she shook her head quickly. "I think you are the only decent man I have known in a long time." Silence stretched. Inside, Emma's laughter drifted from the loft where she was talking to the kitten. Jack exhaled slowly. "What happens next?" he asked. "My mother will not stop," Sarah said. "Not now. Not after those men failed." As if summoned by her words, a rider appeared on the horizon 2 days later. Well, he wore a fine suit despite the dust. His horse was too clean for ranch work. His posture was stiff and careful. Jack met him in the yard with a rifle resting in his arms. "Help you?" Jack asked. "My name is Chester Whitmore," the man said smoothly. "Attorney for the Caldwell family." Sarah stepped onto the porch. Whitmore smiled when he saw her. "Sarah, you look well, considering your recent misfortune." "What do you want?" she asked. Whitmore pulled folded papers from his satchel. "A petition for custody. Your mother is prepared to assume full guardianship of Emma Wright." Emma appeared in the doorway behind Sarah, eyes wide. "She is my daughter," Sarah said. "And your mother is her grandmother," Whitmore replied calmly. "A grandmother with resources, education, influence." Jack stepped closer. "She is not going anywhere." Whitmore's eyes shifted to him. "And you are?" "Her husband." Whitmore blinked. "You are not married." "Not yet," Jack said evenly. Sarah turned sharply toward him. Whitmore gave a thin smile. "You have 1 week to respond to this petition. There will be a hearing in Cheyenne." He handed the papers to Sarah and mounted his horse. As he rode away, dust swirling behind him, Sarah's hands shook. "She will try to take her," she whispered. Jack looked at the house, at Emma standing in the doorway, at the life forming here, piece by piece. "Not if we stand in the way," he said. That night, Jack rode to town. The telegraph office was still open. Albert looked surprised to see him. "Need to send a wire," Jack said. He wrote a message to an old friend in Cheyenne, a lawyer named Porter, and a man who owed him from years back. The next afternoon, a reply came. Porter would take the case. Jack returned home with more than supplies. He returned with a plan. At supper, he laid it out. "Porter says judges do not like rich people buying children," Jack said. "But he also says they will question our situation." "Our situation," Sarah repeated. "We are not married." The words hung heavy. Emma looked between them. "Are you going somewhere?" she asked suddenly. Sarah reached for her hand. "No, sweetheart." Jack looked at Sarah across the table. "There is one thing that would make this stronger," he said. She understood before he finished. "Marriage." Emma's eyes widened. "You mean Papa for real?" she asked. The word hit Jack like a bolt. He had not asked her to call him that. She had simply started. Sarah swallowed. "This would be for protection," she said carefully. "For Emma." "Yes," Jack answered. But there was more under the surface. They both felt it. "Why would you do this?" Sarah asked quietly. "After I kept the money from you." Jack looked at Emma. "Because she needs stability," he said. "Because this house is not empty anymore. Because I would rather fight beside you than watch you lose." Sarah studied his face. "All right," she said softly. "Partners." The wedding took place 3 days later in the small church at Bitter Creek. Reverend Collins officiated. His wife stood witness. Emma held a bouquet of wildflowers she picked herself. Jack wore his old black suit. Sarah wore her pale blue dress. When the vows were spoken, they did not feel like romance. They felt like a shield. Outside the church, Chester Whitmore watched from his horse. "How touching," he said. "A timely union." Jack met his gaze without blinking. "She is my wife now. Emma is my daughter." Whitmore tipped his hat. "We will see what the judge says." The next week passed in preparation. Porter arrived in person. He was sharp and quick, with restless eyes. "They will try to paint you as unstable," he told Jack. "A violent man, quick to kill." "I killed men trying to kidnap a child," Jack said, "and you must stay calm when they say otherwise." Jack nodded. Sarah gathered letters from neighbors. Reverend Collins prepared a statement. Mrs. Henderson from the store insisted on testifying about the changes she had seen in the house. 2 nights before the hearing, Jack woke to a scream. Not from outside. From inside the house. He ran to the loft. Emma's bed was empty. The window was open. On the pillow lay a folded note. Sarah stood frozen, the paper shaking in her hands. "I told you I always get what I want," she read aloud. "Withdraw the petition, or you will never see her again. Mother." The world tilted. "She took her," Sarah whispered. Jack felt something inside him go still, then hard. "Get dressed," he said. "We ride now." They rode through the night toward Cheyenne. No stopping, no resting. Sarah did not cry. She did not speak. Her face was set like stone. Porter met them at dawn with news. "Victoria Caldwell is staying at the Grand Hotel," he said. "4 guards at least." "I am getting my daughter back," Sarah said. "It is too dangerous," Porter warned. Jack shook his head. "We do not have time." The Grand Hotel rose 3 stories above the dusty street. Brick and false elegance. Jack walked through the front door like a man with purpose. He raised his voice, demanded service, drew attention. Guards moved toward him. While they argued, Sarah slipped through the back entrance. Porter had shown her the layout. 3rd floor, room 12. 2 men outside the door. Sarah grabbed a tray from a service cart and walked straight toward them. "Room service," she said. One reached for the tray, yet she smashed it into his face. The other went for his gun. Sarah fired first. The shot echoed through the hallway. The man fell. Her hands shook, but she did not stop. She burst into the room. Emma sat on the bed, eyes red from crying. "Mama!" Sarah grabbed her. They ran for the stairs. At the end of the hall stood Victoria Caldwell, dressed in black silk, diamonds at her throat, face cold as winter. "You never could accept what was best for you," Victoria said. "You had Thomas killed," Sarah said. "He chose to fight," Victoria replied coolly. "That was his mistake." Sarah raised the gun. "Move!" "You will not shoot me," Victoria said. "I already have," Sarah answered. For the first time, Victoria stepped aside. They reached the street where Jack was fighting off guards. He saw them and fired twice. Yet they mounted horses and rode. A bullet caught Jack in the shoulder. He did not slow. They rode until the town disappeared behind them. Only then did Sarah see the blood soaking his shirt. "You are hurt." "I am fine." "You are not. Keep riding." By the time they reached Porter's office, Jack was pale. But when Porter said the hearing was still scheduled for morning, Jack straightened. "We finish this first," he said. Sarah took his hand. Together. And for the first time, the marriage that had begun as protection felt like something stronger. Tomorrow, they would stand in court. Tomorrow, everything would change. He found a child guarding her dying mother. The Cowboy made one. Call, and Everything Changed, Part 3. The courtroom in Cheyenne was packed before the sun had fully climbed the sky. Word had spread fast. And a rich Boston family. A rancher shot in a rescue. A child at the center of it all. Jack sat at the wooden table with his arm in a sling. The bandage beneath his shirt was already stained through. Every breath sent a sharp pain across his shoulder, but he did not move. Sarah sat beside him, her spine straight, her hand resting over his good one. Emma sat in the front row with Martha Collins, holding her small cloth doll tight against her chest. Across the room sat Victoria Caldwell. Her black dress was perfect, her posture flawless. If not for the thin line of fury in her eyes, she could have been attending a social luncheon instead of a custody hearing. Chester Whitmore stood at her side, papers stacked neatly in his hands. Judge Morrison entered. The room fell silent. "We are here to determine custody of Emma Wright," the judge said. "Mr. Whitmore, you may begin." Whitmore rose smoothly. "Your Honor, this is a matter of stability and future security. My client, Mrs. Victoria Caldwell, is a woman of wealth, refinement, and resources. She can offer this child education, safety, and opportunity far beyond what a remote ranch can provide." He paced slowly. "The mother, while no doubt affectionate, has shown questionable judgment. She brought her daughter into dangerous territory. She married a man with a history of violence. This is not a stable environment." The words hung heavy. Porter stood. "Your Honor, the Caldwells showed no interest in this child until a large inheritance became available. The trust left by Edward Caldwell places control of $200,000 in the hands of Emma's guardian." A ripple moved through the courtroom. "This case," Porter continued, "is not about love. It is about control." Victoria's jaw tightened. She took the stand first. Her voice was calm, polished, practiced. "I love my granddaughter," she said. "I only want what is best for her." Porter stepped forward for cross-examination. "Mrs. Caldwell, did you hire men to intimidate your daughter and her husband?" "No." "Did you employ a man named Brennan?" Victoria hesitated for half a second. "I may have hired private security. Security that left Thomas Wright dead." Murmurs filled the room. Victoria's mask slipped just slightly. "My daughter married beneath her station," she said coldly. "She made reckless choices. I tried to protect her from herself, and kidnapping your granddaughter was protection?" Victoria did not answer. Then Sarah took the stand. She told everything. About the attack on the plains, about Thomas being shot, about the wound on her shoulder, about Emma standing in the sun trying to shield her. Her voice never broke. When Whitmore cross-examined her, his tone sharpened. "Mrs. Mercer, you admit you married Mr. Mercer quickly, under pressure. Is this truly a loving marriage?" Sarah's eyes moved to Jack. "It began as protection," she said honestly, "but protection can grow into something stronger." Whitmore smiled thinly. "How convenient." Porter objected, sustained. Then Jack was called. He stood slowly. The pain in his shoulder burned, but he ignored it. "Mr. Mercer," Whitmore began, "you have killed men, have you not?" "Yes." "In the past and recently?" "Yes." "So you expect this court to believe you are a safe guardian for a child?" Jack looked directly at the judge. "I killed men who were trying to hurt my family," he said calmly. "I do not regret protecting them." Whitmore pressed harder. "You nearly beat a man to death years ago in Cheyenne." "He insulted my dead daughter," Jack replied. "I lost control. I have spent 8 years making sure that never happened again." "And yet you continue to kill." Jack's voice did not rise. "I continue to protect." The courtroom fell silent. "They are not strangers to me," he said. "They are my wife and daughter. I would stand between them and anything that tries to hurt them. That is not violence. That is responsibility." Judge Morrison leaned back in his chair, but when both sides finished, he removed his glasses slowly. "This court is deeply concerned by the actions of Mrs. Caldwell," he said. "The kidnapping, the evidence of hired men, and the timing of this petition in relation to the trust fund raise serious doubts about her motives." Victoria's face turned pale. "However," the judge continued, "I also require assurance that this marriage is not a manipulation of circumstance." He looked at Jack and Sarah. "There is a simple way to prove your intentions. If you both sign documents renouncing control of the inheritance, allowing it to be managed independently until the child reaches adulthood, this court can be certain that money is not your motive." The room held its breath. Sarah did not hesitate. "Prepare the papers," she said. Jack nodded once. "My daughter is not for sale." Victoria's composure shattered for the first time. "You fools!" she hissed under her breath. The documents were signed. Judge Morrison struck the gavel. "Custody of Emma Mercer is awarded to her mother and stepfather. Furthermore, based on evidence presented, Mrs. Victoria Caldwell is to be detained pending investigation into charges of conspiracy and kidnapping." Territorial Marshal stepped forward. Victoria's eyes locked with Sarah's as she was led away. There was no apology in them, only defeat. Emma ran across the courtroom and threw her arms around Jack's waist. "Can we go home now?" she whispered. Jack looked at Sarah. "Yes," he said softly. "We are going home." They left Cheyenne that afternoon. The ride back to the ranch was quiet. Emma slept against Sarah's side, worn out from fear and relief. Jack guided the wagon slowly. His shoulder throbbed, but his heart felt lighter than it had in years. "You could have kept the money," Sarah said quietly. "I do not need it," Jack replied. "I need you safe." She watched him for a long moment. "You did not ask me to stay after this," she said. Jack's hands tightened on the reins. "I would never trap you," he said. "If you decide this was only about survival, I will not hold you." Sarah reached across and touched his arm carefully. "This stopped being survival a long time ago." He looked at her then, truly looked. "I love you," he said, and the words rough and honest. Sarah smiled through tears. "I love you too." When they reached the ranch, the sun was setting. The small house stood against the wide Wyoming sky, smoke rising from the chimney. Emma jumped down first and ran toward the porch. "Home!" she shouted. Jack helped Sarah down gently. They stood for a moment in front of the house. A year passed. The ranch grew. A new fence. A bigger barn. Real glass in the windows. Emma turned 6. She still kept food under her pillow sometimes. She still woke from bad dreams now and then. But she laughed more than she cried. She called him Papa without hesitation. One warm evening, Jack rode to the rise where he had first heard that scream. The grass had grown back. No sign of broken wagons. No blood. No reminder of the worst day. Only wind and open sky. When from the house, Emma's voice carried on the breeze. "Papa, supper!" He smiled. "Come in," he called. He turned his horse toward home. Sarah stood in the doorway when he arrived, one hand resting on her rounded belly. 6 months along, a new life on the way. "You are late," she teased. "Fence trouble," he replied. They ate together at the table that once sat empty for 8 long years. After supper, Jack read a story while Emma curled beside him. She fell asleep before the ending. He carried her to bed. When he came back downstairs, Sarah was waiting by the fire. "You are thinking," she said. "A year ago today," he answered. She nodded. "You stopped riding," she said softly. "I almost did not. But you did." Jack took her hand. "I was tired of being alone," he said. "Oh, I just did not know it yet." Sarah leaned against him. "Sometimes," she said, "second chances come screaming." He smiled at that. The lamp in the window burned bright against the dark plains. For 8 years, Jack had come home to shadows. Now he came home to light, to laughter, to love. He had feared the darkness inside him, feared that it made him something broken. But he had learned something greater. Darkness can protect when guided by love, and choosing to love again after loss is not weakness, it is courage. Inside the small ranch house, under the endless Wyoming sky, Jack Mercer finally understood. He had not just saved a woman and her child. They had saved him too. And this time, he would never ride past the scream.